Long, long ago, in the middle of winter, when the snow lay deep and white and crisp upon the ground, a poor boy was sent out into the forest to collect firewood. He dragged a heavy sled behind him and he made his way into that snow-coloured forest. The snow dropped from the trees. He walked for a long time and gathering the sticks as he went, and it took a long, long time to gather enough firewood to make it worthwhile. And he stacked it on that sled and it was cold, so cold. And before he made the journey back home, he thought, I'll just make a little fire and try and thaw out my fingers and my feet. It was so cold. So he took one of those sticks and he began to scrape at the snow to clear a little space for the fire, and he found a small golden key. Where there is a key, there must be a lock. And he began to dig at that frozen ground with that stick, and he dug and he dug and he dug, and dunk, dunk, dunk. He hit something solid. And so furiously he dug and he dug and he dug, and a box, a small iron chest. He turned it and he turned it this way and that way until he found the tiniest of keyholes. And he scraped out the dirt and he took the key. He placed it in the lock. And that's where that story ends. It's the very last story in the Grimm's Book of Tales. It's called The Golden Key. What do you think he found in the box? Anybody got any ideas what he found in the box? Come on, you're 5-year-olds. Come on. Treasure. Oh, yes, might have been treasure. Any other ideas? What was that? Beans. Oh, maybe beans.
Another king.
Sorry? I like where you're going. Wow. Let's open the box and find out, shall we? Well, it's all those things and more. It's imagination. That's what I think's in the box.
Today, Dr. Shahayan will be speaking about the benefits of sharing stories with children. Please welcome Dr. Shahayan for her presentation, The Magic of Stories, the Importance of Shared Reading and Storytelling for Children's Later Life Success. Thank you.
I am delighted and quite excited to talk to you the results of some really exciting research we have on reading to children, and I try very hard to make it interesting. I really dislike going to a talk that I feel like I might fall asleep. So if you're falling asleep, you try to raise your hand, and I know, oh my God, people are falling asleep. I've got to do something about it, all right? I try to do something about it. Unless you really want to sleep, in which case, I can't do anything about it. Something I will be telling you is what we call theory of mind, and I start by the term theory of mind because it's really important, and I tell you why it is so important. But have you ever heard of theory of mind? No. Okay, one person has. Have you heard of autism? Is here anyone, if you would like to tell us, is there anyone who has a child with autism or a child with autism in the family? There's a magic in stories. So there are tons of research. I tell you, there are tons of research on reading to children and how important it is to read to children. Okay, so I have nothing new to tell you about how important reading is to children. Well, there are two elements of reading. Reading is as a task of reading the written text. Obviously, you grab a book, you want to read it to your children, you will be reading through the text. And this text reading and knowledge of literacy as reading, as the act of reading the written text, is quite important for our modern lives. But then reading is also storytelling. You grab a book, you read to your children, but behind that there is a story. And interestingly, you might know, you might not know, there is nothing new about storytelling. For hundreds and thousands of years, people have told stories to their children. However, for our lives as species, as human beings, reading and writing is actually quite new to our species. Okay, so when you're reading a book to your children, this is your first message. Write it down. I'm just observing who is writing it down. This is your first message. When you're reading a book to your children, you grab a book, you're reading through the text, you think to yourself, I am telling my child a story. So you do think about the story. And I want to tell you today, maybe this story is actually more important than the reading. Okay. So what we know? Well, we know that reading enhances vocabulary. It is quite well established in the academic literature that parents who read more to their children, they have children who have better literacy skills and who know more vocabulary. It sounds quite rational. It sounds quite logical. When you read more, they hear more vocabulary, they learn more vocabulary. Lesson number 2, when you're reading books to your children, don't just go through the text and hope that they sleep soon, they fall asleep soon. You don't need to read a lot. You need to read better. You need to read, well, I wouldn't say right, but you need to do it better. So as you're going through the text, you ask them, do you know this word? Do you know this word? In my experience, often kids don't tell you, oh, I don't know that word. But if you ask them, they say, no. Or even ask them, oh, what does this mean? What are they doing? What does it mean that they are, I don't know, pronouncing? Do you know what pronouncing is? Depends on the age of your child, then you will get an understanding of, well, what is the level of my child's what we call cognitive development? A good term for you to know, cognitive development. I'll tell you a bit later about cognitive development. Okay, so you want your children to learn vocabulary, and vocabulary is very important in our performance as adults. Okay, shared reading enhances children's literacy skills. Again, it's quite natural to think, well, when we are reading, children know new words, they know the written text, therefore, they have better literacy skills. This is your lesson number 2. Ask questions about vocabulary, alphabet. So, what we don't know. But there are some questions we don't know. One is, does reading only enhance literacy or what we call general cognitive skills? General cognitive skills is, well, kids are growing up and they are becoming smarter, as we call. They are enhancing those skills that help them perform better cognitively in their thinking abilities, for example, in their memory, in their reading. These are all cognitive skills. Language. Okay, so one question is reading important only for literacy or for other areas like mathematics, for example? Question number 2, is there anything special about reading? Researchers argue that it's not really reading, but parents who read more, they are smarter people, or they are better readers at least. Therefore, it's a genetic effect. So even if they don't read to their children and they just go and play in the park, their kids will become better readers. Have you ever thought about that? Some of you might. Well, time is flying fast. Okay, another question. Will lower SES children benefit the same as higher SES one? Why thinking about SES is important? Because different families have different access to resources. Some people send their kids to music classes and dance classes, and they have a lot of resources. They do puzzles and board games. Some people can't do that. I go through this very quickly because I have some really interesting things I don't want to, run out of time to tell you. So in this research, we have addressed these questions. The sample is around 5,000 families. This is an impressive sample. We haven't collected the data, so we don't get the credit. Australian government is actually collecting the data. And they have tested children over 6 years. So the first time they get kids when they are 0 to 2, and they study kids at those very early times, and then they follow up to see how these children are developing. This is really powerful data. Okay. And there is an article in the conversation. I'm not going to bring it up because, again, I don't want to spend too much time on this. But there is a print of the article. Rebecca has some prints downstairs. So as you are leaving, you can grab a print of the article for yourself. So in this article that you will see a print of, the results are here. We have found that reading enhances different domains of children's development. If you want to take a photo, not only literacy but mathematics. So interestingly, parents who read more to their 0 to 2 kids, those kids go to school, do better in maths and in grammar and in spelling. So these are quite powerful results. Then reading stands over and above other activities that parents do. This is also quite intriguing results. So we have, the data has asked parents a bunch of activities that parents do. Do you send your kids to swimming? Do they do music? Do you have dinner at home together? Okay, and there is a range of activities that parents do. And what we found through our statistical analysis is that reading stands over and above other activities in enhancing children's cognitive development. And then this is also quite interesting, and in the article that you will grab a copy when you're leaving, we say the title is, if you can only do one thing with your children, that should be reading. So lesson number 3. If you don't have money to send them to this class and that class and tutoring and etc., that's fine. Your kids are not going to be behind if you do lots of reading, good reading with them. By the way, the articles you will see downstairs are from a source online magazine which is called The Conversation. If you just Google The Conversation, it shows you this online magazine. It's a brilliant platform for general public. Researchers write in the conversation. It's free. You can search any topic you want. For example, children learning, sex, whatever you want to search. And it tells you a bunch of things. It has different areas, so you can search health, education, economy, and it's a very good source. It's a reliable source, okay? And the articles are written in a very friendly language. Okay, so these are, I put this here, I don't expect you to actually know this, but you might, but I just want to tell you that we really did a good job, okay? This is our statistical analysis. It looks very complex, isn't it? It is actually quite complex. Don't think all statistical analysis are like this. But this tells us that receptive vocabulary when kids are 4 to 5, how does it link to reading, writing, spelling when kids are 8 to 9, and shared reading at the time of 2 to 3?